All right. Yeah. Hey guys. How you guys doing out there? All right. Anyway, this video is for entertainment, education purposes. Mine only. Any and everything I say could be wrong. Do your own research, come to your own conclusions. I just turned the camera on. I got an idea what I want to talk about, and I'm just going to improvise, and just just riff on this shit. Totally unscripted, completely unprepared, totally off the cuff. So I want to change up the tempo a little bit, because everything I've been kind of going over is more just kind of like based off of what we could see, what we could see, what we can hear. The kind of the five senses. And what I want to get into is the sixth sense, man. Just for fun. Let's get into the sixth sense, cryptids, cults, satanic rituals, magic, these kind of things, right? So, and how that all relates to everything. I mean, it's kind of like, okay, start off with the cult. And when you're talking about cults, like ritualistic cults, let's start with the cults. Well, if you want to talk about like cults, ritualistic cults, you got to think of it in terms of the top 10%, the middle 80%, and the lowest 10%, right? So since I'm on the 80%er kick, let's just go with the 80%er. Since they're the people that are least criticized, let's start with the least criticized. Which of these three groups is the least criticized? You got the top 10, middle 80, lowest 10. Let's go with the group that's least criticized. The middle 80%. Now, cults. Well, that's exactly what the middle 80% is. A big cult. It's a big cult, is what it is. Now, of course, it's broken up into many factions, but you can, umbrella them under one big tent and call it the middle 80% cult. And this cult has all kinds of rituals. I mean, every day, every minute of every hour of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year, of every decade, of every century, of every millennium is just this big, massive, ritualistic cult with these constant, endless rituals. And it's all about virtue signaling. The middle 80% is this massive virtue signaling cult that's always, virtue signaling how wonderful they are. They are the mob, man. Do not fuck with the mob, okay? And so there you go. You got cults. There's your cult. I mean, it's the biggest cult in the country. Is the middle 80% is the biggest fucking cult that exists in the country and in the world. The biggest one. It's the biggest cult. And every second of every minute of every hour of every day is a nonstop cult ritual for these people. Everything is a ritual that's all based in self-interest, me. Yeah. And so then you got all kinds of sacrifice going on. So if the middle 80% cult needs to sacrifice some of its own, it has no problem doing it. Like, no problem whatsoever. Absolutely no problem. So ritualistic sacrifice within the 80%er cult is like is just a given. It's just one of the daily rituals of maintaining the cult. You always have to sacrifice. You always got to sacrifice members of the cult. Just like the Mayan cult, where they with the big temple and they cut the head off and roll the fucking body down the. It's the same with the middle 80%. The middle 80% always has to have blood. It's a blood sacrifice death cult. The middle 80% is a massive blood sacrificing death cult, and sacrifices are are always made. That's why they love to scapegoat the lowest 10%. They can constantly do ritualistic sacrifices by sacrificing the middle or the lowest 10%. But I guarantee you, they have no problem whatsoever sacrificing their own. That's just the way it is. So we got cults, and then magic, money magic. Money magic is very real. People that say magic doesn't exist, money magic is observable. It's going on all the time. Top 10%, middle 80%, lowest 10%. Woo! Yeah, all this money magic, man. How do you get to the middle 80%? How do you stay in the middle 80%? How do you avoid getting sacrificed by your own cult members in the middle 80%? Oh, it's money magic. It's all about money. The more money you got, the more magic you do. Money magic. Yeah, you got like all this stuff, the unseen. You got cryptids, and like a cryptid, for example. One cryptid that's observable is the serial killer psychopath. Is basically the same thing as a reptilian. A reptilian. That's what a serial killer psychopath is a reptilian. That's what a psychopath serial killer is. Like, all these cryptids, man. These Karens. These Karens are a form of cryptids. They're total cryptids, bro. Like a Karen will sacrifice one of their own without question. It's all part of the ritual, the cult ritual. Like, even parents will sacrifice their own children for money magic to gain more power. It happens all the time. That's what the breaking down of the family nucleus. That's like that's just a long form phrase. It's basically like ritualistic sacrifice. Like a Karen who's a mother will totally throw their children under the bus to get some of that, the green, that kryptonite. And then, I know everybody hates the Bible, so let me just, before I go into the Bible, I'll mention a name, like Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper was about the Bible. So I don't know, anybody, they can talk shit about the Bible, but all I got to do is bring up Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper was, he referenced the Bible often as a source of truth. Well, like when you look at the Bible, okay, like vampires, for example. So we're covering cults. We'll get to Satanism, which it's all based in Satanism. We're covering magic, cults, cryptids, magic, cults, cryptids, vampires. Vampires are real. Like if you if you go the Bill Cooper route, right? And you start looking to find truth in the Bible, the Bible says that vampires are real. Did you know this? Yeah, vampires are very real. There is a generation whose teeth are swords, whose teeth are knives, to devour the poor from off of the earth, the needy from among mortals. Vampires are real. There is a generation whose teeth are swords, whose teeth are knives, to devour the poor from off the earth, the needy from among mortals. Vampires. See, that would make sense as to why they manufacture poverty. Because if they're cannibal vampires that eat human beings, well then, they need the lowest 10% in order to breed, human beings like cattle. Because who's going to give a shit if the vampires are eating the lowest 10%? Is the 80% cult going to care? No. The 80% cult doesn't care if vampires are eating the lowest 10%. The 80% just needs to, appease the vampires so the vampires don't start eating the middle 80%. So yeah, there is a generation whose teeth are swords, whose teeth are knives, to devour the poor from the earth, the needy from among mortals. You can look at the entire book of Exodus. The pyramids. The big Egyptian pyramids made out of gold. Isn't that what the book of Exodus is about? The big pyramids made of gold, those are the top 10 percenters. And they're eating all the lowest 10 percenters. That's what the whole book of Exodus is about. The top 10%, cannibalizing the lowest 10%. That's what the whole book of Exodus is about. Don't get distracted by race and shit like this. Race has nothing to do with it. This is a class war. This is a class war. So, like the Bible says, avoid foolish questions and endless genealogies. All this stuff about race is just about endless genealogies. You've lost sight of what the Bible is saying if you're getting distracted by endless genealogies like races, this race and that race. No. It ain't about that at all, dude. There's a generation whose teeth are swords, whose teeth are knives, to devour the poor from the earth, the needy from among mortals. Which is a satanic ritual. By eating the flesh of the needy it's a satanic ritual. So now you got Satanism, satanic rituals, satanic human sacrifices. There's a generation whose teeth are swords, all these crazy cryptids like Karens and serial killer psychopaths and it's a sick world, huh? Massive cults. 80% of the world is a big massive cult. Yeah, you didn't know this? You're not paying attention, huh? Or are you? So these 80 percenters, they make human sacrifices to the top 10%. So the top 10% are the main vampires. And the top 10% vampires, they promise the middle 80%, that they'll leave them alone as long as the middle 80% make human sacrifices, which they get the majority of from the lowest 10%. But like I said, don't underestimate that. Like, no, the middle 80%, the middle 80% cult has no problem sacrificing their own to the vampire gods, the generation whose teeth are swords and teeth are knives to devour the poor from the earth. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's all happening. See, because I can go into the lowest 10%, this whole thing about the top 10%, middle 80%, lowest 80%, and talk about it in a pragmatic sense where you can look at it from a pragmatic. But no, this is all Satanism. This is all like satanic ritual, cults, vampires, lizard people, all the whole thing. Chameleon lizard people. Oh yeah, this is all real, bro. They live as a documentary. Don't get me twisted that I'm just all about everything as pragmatic and pragmatism and looking at, no, because this is what it is. There is a generation whose teeth are swords, whose teeth are knives to devour the poor from the earth, the needy from among mortals. Yeah. That's why they breed the poor. They manufacture poverty because they have to. It's like they're just farming all these poor people so that the vampires can eat them. There is a generation whose teeth are swords, whose teeth are knives to devour the poor. Then get back into money magic. The Bible, so the Bible is kind of talking about how there's like all these monsters. You got dragons, and you got like Satan with the big horns, and you got demons and devils. You think this shit ain't real? You think that this shit ain't real? Devils, demons. What's a Karen? What's a serial killer psychopath? These are all demons and devils. Yeah, you think this shit ain't real? There's a generation whose teeth are swords, whose teeth are knives. Demons, devils, dragons, Satan, Lucifer. Oh yeah. Whose teeth are swords, whose teeth are knives to devour the poor from the earth, the needy from among mortals. This is all real, bro. It's all very real. Satanic ritual sacrifice, human sacrifice, satanic ritual human sacrifice of children from the lowest 10%. That's where they get them all. And see, the middle 80% is this big, massive, like satanic cult that allows the lowest 10% to be human sacrifices to satanic gods and demons and devils. And you think I'm joking? No, there is a generation whose teeth are swords, whose teeth are knives to devour the poor from the earth, the needy from among mortals, the lowest 10%. Like you got to think of it in terms of the top 10%, middle 80%, and lowest 10%. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, you think the Bible isn't talking about cryptids and magic, black magic, sorcery, pharmakeia? Pharmakeia. Why do you think that when they do these big drug war operations, they dump all of the pharmakeia drugs into the poor areas? Why? Pharmakeia, no, you don't look like the Bible is one of many books, but it's actually more, it kind of like, it kind of makes it more real, because these things sound ludicrous to these things sound completely unrealistic to the point of being ludicrous. That you have dragons, seven-headed dragons, demons, devils, Satan, sorcerers, black magic, money magic. The whore of Babylon. Like, all this stuff sounds so unrealistic, like to the point of being ludicrous. There aren't demons. There aren't seven-headed dragons. There is no whore of Babylon. Like, right? There aren't generations with teeth like swords and teeth like knives to devour the poor. So, no. They don't manufacture poverty and farm poor people so that vampires can cannibalize them and do human sacrifices, human like child sex rituals and sacrifices. No, no, because the middle 80% said so. The middle 80%. If anybody's going to be the victim, it's going to be the middle 80%. It can't be the lowest 10%. Like, those are all the poopy poops, right? No, yeah. So you got magic, money magic, black magic, money magic, same thing. You know, vampires, death cults, demons, fucking devils, Karens, psychopaths, serial killers. I mean, it's all happening, dude. That's all it is. That's what it is. Human sacrifice. There's a generation whose teeth are swords. The human sacrifice, all this satanic human sacrifice. Oh yeah. No, this is all real. So, anyways, I would like to go into this more, but it's kind of like I'd have to kind of shift away from my general focus, the general focus I've been on for the last week. But oh yeah, no, this is all real, bro. Like, no. See, they want you to think that this isn't real, because that's how the game goes on. That's how you keep all this game, the big casino, happening. You know, like the scene in The Shining when the guy's at the bar, and the ghost, the apparition, the bartender's like a ghost or apparition, and all these ghosts everywhere, and fucking the dude at the bar is going fucking crazy, and getting demon possessed and shit. Oh yeah. That's what the whole casino is about. Demon possession, everything. Yeah, dude, no, this is all real. So when I've done my channel in the past, I really get into all this stuff. But when you start getting into the woo-woo, then you start to lose credibility. And so in the last week, I'm focusing on the top 10%, middle 80%, and lowest 10%. How all this works with the Epsteins and the EBT thieves with the EBT cookie crumbs all over their face, riding off with stolen bicycles, and the middle 80% are all screaming justice because they're innocent victims. And yeah, I'm taking a more of a pragmatic approach. Is like, this is the way it is. But when you start getting into like the sixth sense of like, going beyond the third dimension into fourth and fifth and dimensions and like sixth sense and stuff. Yeah, there is a generation whose teeth are swords, whose teeth are knives, to devour, to eat people, vampires. Yeah. Soylent Green, all this, this is all real, bro. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the clones, Clones, that's another one. Like, you got to watch the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the one that came out in the late 70s, early 80s, to know what I'm talking about. But if you've seen it, then you know what I'm saying when I say look at that, look at that movie. Who is the 80%? The 80% are all the clones, bro. The 80% of the fucking world is all the clones, man. And if you're not a clone, you're in the small, you're the minority, bro. The majority are all clones. So now we're talking about clones, zombies. What's the difference? Zombies, clones, they're all the same. It's all the same. Zombies. Yeah, bro. Like The Walking Dead. If you're in The Walking Dead, if that's your storyline and you're living The Walking Dead and you're not a zombie, well, you're the minority. The majority is zombies. Why? What? Even the Bible says this. Like, the Bible says the world. What does it say? It's like, broad is the path, wide is the road, and broad is the path to destruction. Like, all the masses are just walking off the edge of a fucking cliff. And so what you want to do is not follow the masses. You want to forge your own path. Like don't follow the masses. Well, and if you think of that in terms of top 10%, middle 80%, and lowest 10%, well, the masses is the middle 80%. And they're all doing their rituals, all of their rituals and everything, their satanic rituals of human sacrifice and tyranny and psychopathy, and like the masses this is okay. So yeah, no, the Bible goes into all this cryptid shit. You got Nephilim, giants, you got devils, demons, seven-headed dragons. Oh yeah, you got fuck, man. You got a generation whose teeth are swords, whose teeth are knives, to vampirize and cannibalize and devour the poor from the earth. All you don't think this? Yeah, well, yeah. And the thing about the Bible, not to preach it or nothing, but the Bible is the oldest account of like devils, demons. It's the oldest one that can still be deciphered. The language that the Bible was originally written in is the oldest language that you can still like decipher into the English language. All these other old languages, yeah, they might be older, but you can't decipher them into the English language. You can only decipher a small fraction of that language into the English language. The Bible is the oldest one that you can translate it word for word into the English language. It's the oldest one. So when you want to talk about like cryptids and all this different stuff, demons and interdimensional beings and devils and all this other stuff, Nephilim, giants, and all this stuff, the Bible is the oldest account of that can be translated into the English language. All these other old languages that account for devils and dragons and demons and giants, all those other old languages, you can say that they're older, but they cannot be translated word for word into the English language. The Bible is the oldest one that can be translated word for word into the English language. So the Bible is the most accurate document, like that's documenting devils, demons, dragons, giants, vampires, and all this stuff. I don't know, bro. When you look at it in terms of top 10%, middle 80%, and lowest 10%, yeah, all this stuff is real. Dragons, vampires, demons, devils. Yeah. Yeah. If you look at it in terms of top 10%, middle 80%, and lowest 10%, when you look at it, top 10%, middle 80%, and lowest 10%, it's all money magic. It's black magic. This is all money magic. Top 10%, middle 80%, lowest 10%. Cults. This big, massive cult. 80% of the world is this big, massive, bloodthirsty cult that will they will sacrifice humans to appease the gods of this world, the devils and all, the giants and the Nephilim. And yeah, is this not real? Yeah, of course it is. All you got to do, if you got to look at it in like thirds, like you got top 10%, middle 80%, and lowest 10%. Well, yeah. Oh yeah, they farm. They manufacture poverty to farm all these lowest 10% human beings so that they can be vampirized and cannibalized by the vampires and demons and devils. And oh yeah, and the middle 80% are those most complicit in it. The middle 80% is this big, massive, complicit cult that is like fully supportive of the idea of manufacturing poverty to farm human beings for ritualistic satanic sacrifice and child sex sacrifice and all this others. The middle 80% are the ones that consent to it, that concede to it. As long as it isn't happening to the middle 80%. Like, they'll go along with it as long as it isn't happening to them. As long as it's only happening to those guys over there. Yeah. Satanism, money magic, sorcery, vampires, vampirism, devils, demons, dragons, evil spirits. Yeah, how is that not how is that not real? That is top 10%, middle 8%, lowest 10%. We see it all around us. Top 10% are they're doing all this evil child sex ritual, sick shit, right? They're doing all this money magic. They're doing all this money magic, right? How is that not? What is it that you don't think that's what's going on? It's in the news. Mainstream media only gives you daily updates every day on this very thing. It's like, yeah, how is it not happening? What about it isn't real? Demons, devils, dragons, black magic, sorcerers, witches. You don't think this is real?